Welcome to worship at the McPherson Church of the Brethren. We are an open and affirming congregation that strives to be hospitable and attentive to all of creation. We do not always meet that goal, and we have our share of ups and downs. But in the midst of it all, we continue to listen to God's call on our individual lives and the life of this congregation. We continue to seek to follow Jesus, peacefully, simply, together. We are humbled you have chosen to worship with us. Welcome.
Good morning, church. Good morning, those who are watching here locally on Channel 13, and also those from afar on YouTube. Again, we're continuing this great tradition here at this church of fantastic music. Thank you to the brass quintet and also Olivia for the beautiful piano music at the beginning. Today is the second Sunday of Advent, Peace Sunday. We're going to learn a little bit more about that later in the service and why this room is filled with people wearing orange. This morning I felt like I was Bob Newhart and I woke up from a nightmare and I was back in South Carolina. But here we are. And let's take a moment and greet your neighbor. All right, are there any announcements or joys and concerns that you'd like to share this morning? And I think Catherine is first.
I'm Catherine Whitaker. 3 things I wanted to share this morning. 1, we have run out of bulletins. So if you have 2 and you could do with 1, look around at your neighbors and please share one. That would be really helpful. Secondarily, you should have 2 index cards and something to write with during sharing time. If you do not have 2 index cards and something to write with, Jerry and I will be walking around and we'll get those to you. And then third, and you'll be hearing more about this, we're not going to go in depth about this. If it's hot, yes it is, because we've been struggling with our boiler. And we're keeping our boiler going this winter, and we have a plan to do some work to see what we're going to do when our boiler gives out, because it's probably not going to give us another winter. And so our tack is to not let that boiler get cold. We used to have a governor on it that said if it got X degrees outside, then it would shut down. So we were being responsible about our use of burning fuel. But we're letting that puppy burn because we needed to get it through the winter. So if you're warm, take off what you can take off appropriately.
Well, she brought down the house. Oh, here we go. Oh, they need cards. Okay. Oh, well, this is tricky. Raise a hand really high if you want to talk. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marie Neer, and my parents, Lyle and Marlene Neer, would like to invite you to their home for an open house next Sunday afternoon, 12:30 to 3, to see their collection of nativity sets. They have over 300 of them from over 100 different countries, and they really have worked hard at getting different styles made out of different materials. So it's a fun way to celebrate the season. If you can't come on Sunday, they would love to have you come some other time, and you can just call them to set up a time to come see them. They live at 1213 Darlow Drive, and we will get it in the newsletter for next week or Friday so that you can have more information.
Nancy Magnell speaking for the outreach team. It's wonderful to see all the gifts that are under the tree this morning for our Angel Tree children and our Step MC families. If you have not yet returned your gift, please do so by next Sunday so that we have a chance to get them sorted and ready to deliver to the families. I noticed there were still 2 angels left on the tree this morning. So if you've not had a chance to take one, there's still 2 chances to buy something for a child who has an incarcerated parent. Thank you.
This afternoon, 5 o'clock, UCC Church Congregational, that's at the corner of Elizabeth and Walnut Street. It's a former schoolhouse. Celebration of the life of Wink, Annette Carr's dog, who is more than a dog, so to speak, was symbolic of triumph over all difficulties. So that's an informal gathering this afternoon at 5 o'clock.
All right, let's center our hearts then as Ellen carries on with the service. Thanks.
Please join with me in speaking our opening responsive words. On this second Sunday of Advent, our hearts and minds are heavy with concerns about how gun violence impacts so many. God's heart beats for all whose spirits feel crushed or who are overwhelmed with despair, for all who carry the scars of gun violence in any form. God moves near to all of us and longs to gather us as a hen gathers her chicks. For all who have worked so hard to bring peace and healing and change to our communities, only to feel like nothing will ever change. God meets us here. God welcomes our disappointment and anger over empty thoughts and prayers as change remains elusive. For all whose daily existence is overwhelmed with trauma and scars and pain-filled memories. God's heart beats for all whose spirits feel crushed or who are overwhelmed with grief. Please rise and join with the brass and piano in singing our opening hymn. then would the children come forward for the children's time?
Okay. Let's see. Good morning. It's good to see you all. I'm going to try to get this up as high as possible. How are we doing today? Thumbs up? Yeah. Good. Good. Today we are talking about peace. Okay? Do you see all the people wearing orange out there? Do you know why we're wearing orange today? It's kind of a serious reason. Why, Dane?
Because we are singing.
Because we're what?
Because we are singing.
We're going to sing. That's right. That's right. Any other ideas? It's because of hope. You're right. What do you think, Ritter? Because of gun violence? Yeah. So we have hope, and we are going to do a lot of singing. And we're also thinking about people who have been hurt by guns today, okay? And I have friends and relatives who have guns. I'm sure some of you do as well.
Actually, my grandpa and grandma.
Your grandpa and grandma do? Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but my brother has little toy guns.
Yeah, so today we're focusing on wanting people to use their guns wisely because we don't want others to be hurt, okay? Right? Do you know why orange is the color for that? What do you think, Dane?
Because orange is kind of like.
You forgot, okay. Well,
Or we are wearing orange because it's hopeful.
we are wearing orange because it's hopeful. I really like that. That's a great response to that, Everly. I didn't know, and so I looked it up last night. When people are hunting, during hunting season, folks wear orange if you go out into the woods.
Yeah, we did that before.
You've done that before so that you're seen and so that you're not hurt. So we want people to not be hurt, so we're wearing orange. Kind of neat. Okay, so the Church of the Brethren is historically a peace church. All these people think peace is really valuable, and it's one of our kind of pillars of our church. And in 1948, there was an organization called Brethren Volunteer Service. Has anybody heard of that? No, haven't heard of it. Well, we're going to talk about it today. Anybody out here participate in Brethren Volunteer Service? Look at the hands. See how there's a bunch of them? So originally, it was an alternative to military service. So folks who maybe didn't want to hurt anyone, wanted to serve their country differently than military service, went into BVS. And I did that when I was a little bit younger. I brought some pictures to show you. And I worked at a farm and helped people recover from mental illness. And I did a lot of harvesting. I worked in the garden. Here, everybody see? I got to play with all sorts of animals. This is a pregnant sow, a pregnant pig right here.
I thought it was a pig.
Yeah, it's a pig, you're right. We got to harvest apples. I got to build some really amazing relationships with people. We had gorgeous sunsets, kind of like we do, can you see, Vivian, here in Kansas?
But right now it's really foggy.
Right now it's kind of foggy, yeah. Do you know what kind of animal this is?
Llama!
It's not a llama, you're close. It's an alpaca.
What's an
It's an
alpaca?
alpaca. It's similar to a llama. It's a big fluffy animal, see?
Yeah, it looks fluffy.
Yeah.
It looks fluffy like a
So
llama.
what we thought when we got these animals was that they were going to be therapy animals.
What's therapy?
It means that they're going to help people feel better.
Oh.
But when we got these animals, their names are Dexter and Maverick, and we learned that they're really scared of people. So it really didn't work. But I went and sat with the alpacas every day and tried to get them to like me, and it was kind of therapeutic for me. And flowers. I get to pick a lot of flowers. It was a really really joyful time in my life. Yeah, we milked the cows.
Did you know my grandpa has a cow?
Your grandpa has a cow?
A lot.
Do you like them? Cows are kind of fun, aren't they? Yeah.
And they have horses.
And you have horses. Yeah, so I got to spend a lot of time with animals. It snowed. We made maple syrup from the sap on the trees. Yeah, we had maple trees. But most importantly, it was a peaceful way for me to show that I care about my neighbors, okay? So I have some orange things for you. This is kind of silly, but I went around my house this morning and picked up a lot of orange stuff. And you can pick what you want, okay? There's all sorts of different stuff. Yeah. Some of them are kind of yellow, but you can pick what you want. And I want you to think this week about orange and how it represents peace and how we all want to be. You can have one. Just one. Yeah, it's kind of yellow. It's kind of yellow.
Except if you open it, there's a little bit of orange inside.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we're going to think about peace this week, and you can keep your orange thing in your pocket, all right? Sound good? Yeah. Thanks for coming, and come get an orange thing if you haven't.
To invite the rest of the kids forward who plan to sing with Matt Kids. They're singing this morning, so if you plan to help and sing, please come forward at this time.
Good morning. I'm Bev Nye, and my husband Kent and I joined this wonderful church the summer of 2021. During the last 40 or more years, I have been on the front seat right by adolescents living in Colorado and Kansas. And for the last 28 years, from 1992 to 2020, I taught at McPherson Middle School. Taught 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. I love adolescents. They're just, and I enjoyed getting to know these boys and girls. They are interesting creatures. Love them. There are many factors at play if an adolescent struggles with depression. And most who do come out of it okay, help from professionals, family members, strategies they learn, and they learn to manage their depression and become wonderful, amazing adults. But I'd like to share briefly about two young boys who did not come out of their depression. And they each found an unlocked gun in their home, and they each shot himself. I'll refer to them as student number 1 and student number 2. Student number 1, tall, good-looking, very bright and very shy 6th grade boy in my literature class. He told me about the Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich, and how in the early 1940s, the Nazis had surrounded the city of Leningrad, where Shostakovich lived, and with his family. And the Nazis had cut off all food, of course, and electricity. The residents were dying inside this city. It was, picture the worst scenario, and that's what was happening, freezing and starving to death. Yet Shostakovich found the energy to compose and perform. He found 100 musicians, and the way that this symphony, now known as the Leningrad Symphony, was revealed to the world as a story in and of itself. But I learned all this from student number 1. And he told me, Mrs. Nye, you have to read this book, Symphony for the City of the Dead. And so I ordered it for the classroom library. I read it. It was wonderful. No, it's not wonderful. It's just horrible in some places. But he and I had conversations. And those conversations now are just so precious to me thinking back. Because other than that, this boy never said boo to me. Student number 2, every Wednesday during his 6th grade year when I had him, and also during his 7th grade year, he would come and find me every Wednesday morning. And he would stand, a few feet away, and he'd say, Mrs. Nye, what day is it today? And together we had to do, it's hump day. And he told me, you have to do the bending of the knees and this and have the tone of voice. And we would laugh, and then the other kids would gather around, and they wanted to be part of this little group too. So he got to lead this group. What day is it today? It's hump day. And I must tell you that even now in my retirement, most Wednesdays, I think of him. And I'm sure there are some of you who have been touched by gun violence in some way. Those 2 boys meant a lot to me. Now, what we are asking you to do today is to, and you can refer to the list that was typed up so nicely in the bulletin, and if you have another way that you would like to do to help with gun violence prevention, please write that on your card. What it is, it's a little commitment to you and to the congregation that you will do within the next year. Something that you will follow through on, please. And the reason why we want you to write duplicates is you will drop one in this box here, and you'll keep one as a reminder for yourself. Now, you probably can guess about me. I am interested in trying to encourage our state legislators to pass a law that has a secure gun safety, where if you do own guns in your home, that you would be required, if there are children especially, to lock those guns up so that children, curious children, like my grandchildren are curious, they might go to somebody's house. Curious children or people who are very, very sad cannot get a hold of those guns. 26 states have such a law, and yet we don't in Kansas. You may know this statistic. In the last few years, the main cause of death of children in America is guns. Not diseases, not car accidents. It's guns. And I'd like to, before I die, that doesn't give me too much time, I would like to do what I can to, and I know you feel the same way, to do something about the guns and children in America. So during the beautiful song that Kevin and Ellen will be playing later, called Imagine, would you please take one of your cards. Thank you very much.
And some of you think quickly, and we'll get that done right away, and some of you need to ponder, and that's okay. This prayer box will stay here, so if you want to take it home and you want to ponder and you want to bring it back next week or midweek on Wednesday, that's just fine. We'll leave that here for you. If mobility is an issue for you and you want to tap your neighbor to have them bring that forward, that's fine as well, however it works for you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Ben.
you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Would you please join me in this prayer in unison, our congregational prayer? Together. God, make us instruments of peace. When others hate, teach us love. When the world harms, empower us to heal. When doubts overwhelm us, enable us to believe. When we only feel despair, fill us with hope. When darkness is all around, help us see the light. When our mourning suffocates us, give us reasons to feel joy. O loving Creator, create space for us to console the wounded. Give us time to understand others. Grant us hearts to love all, because these gifts ensure we reflect your goodness and will for all of creation. Amen.
From Isaiah 2. This is what Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the last days, the mountain of God's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of God, to the temple of the God of Jacob. God will teach us God's ways, so that we may walk in God's paths." The law will go out from Zion, the word of God from Jerusalem. God will judge between the nations. God will settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Come, descendants of Jacob, let us walk in the light of God.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
The power of memory and the power of song. Thank you, JD and Ellen and Becky and Lucy. For those that spend any time with me, you know that is my all-time favorite song. And even though Lennon asked the question, is it possible to believe in a world where God, religion, heaven aren't necessarily talked about? For me, the song is absolutely saturated in theology. And for that, it just imagine we honor the call of Christ to be peacemakers instead of warmongers. Okay, thank you. I want to start by saying that if I can get through this, that's a miracle. I will be praying every day over your cards you put in the box for the next 365 days. So they are not going ignored. They will be prayed over to remind all of us of the commitment we make today. My voice is not hoarse from a cold. It's from coaching. The seasons just continue to morph into other seasons. And yesterday we had an incredible wrestling tournament. And so that this is the impact of screaming all the time for 9 hours straight. Friends, I do my best to remain positive under every circumstance. I try to find the good and the hope and the light in some of the most disturbing moments, the moments ripe with despair. And I think for most of my journey, I do a good job of that. I find the light, I find the good, I find the hope, anchored in faith, believing that even as churches recognize diminished attendance on Sunday, that we are on the cusp of something great. I cling to that. That is who I am. However, there is one issue. That robs me of joy, that stills my hope. Summer, June of 1999, I stood on a hill in a park overlooking Columbine High School, thinking with the others that were there that day, that this was a scar, an asterisk, a caveat in our history books. It would be an anomaly, a strange occurrence. I stood there believing that society would evolve and change and adapt so that places of learning would be the safe and secure refuges they should be for students. That laughter would echo up and down the hallways. Commons areas would be full of gossip because they're human beings, for Pete's sake, but also full of love and daily reunions. I believed to the core of my being, that the greatest threats to schools, especially in Kansas, were tornadoes. Or as in my day, bathrooms set ablaze by rambunctious students. Never meaning any harm, just simply curious about what would happen. I envisioned schools where any kids I knew might have the anxiety coupled with going into a new beginning as they started high school. I never understood the anxiety that would follow Columbine. That was 25 years ago, friends. We still have fire drills, especially in Tornado Alley. We have tornado drills. Although I'm still wondering what ducking under a desk is for safety during a tornado, but whatever. But now there's a new drill that accompanies students when they go. Active shooter training drills. I have no idea, I can't fathom how this impacts students' mental health. I can't even begin to imagine what it must be like to go through these motions during these drills, believing it could, but hopefully will never happen. I get to think about these things from the safety of distance and time from my time in school, or when I'm there in the after hours. But my two kids, and all the students that I absolutely love and adore that call McPherson Church home and that wrestle for us, play soccer for us, they don't get to escape this reality. They don't only attend school in the after hours. It is real, it is lived, it is experienced when the doors lock behind them and there are no windows in those doors. It is realized when there are only two ways into the school, and most often they are locked and you have to be rung in. It is realized as they walk up and down the hallways, friends, they're armed security officers. This is the experience of students today in their academic journey. I can't speak to how that feels, but they can.
So how do you feel when you have to do an active shooter drill at school?
Quite frankly, it makes me feel scared that something may actually happen and that some of my friends could get hurt or even killed, or a teacher that shouldn't have to go. Like, whether they may not be a favorite teacher in the school, no one should have to die through someone's anger or being scared just to use a gun or something along those lines. It makes me scared that there isn't hope in this world to try and help people get better, but that's why we do it, to try and stop that so that people can hopefully learn to not do that.
Well, it reminds me of the way that the world is and the reality of it, and it makes me very sad and heartbroken that there are things and people in this world that could motivate someone to commit such an atrocity.
Have you ever had to go into a soft or hard lockdown? And if you did, how did that make you feel?
I've only had experiences going into a soft lockdown, but even if it is just a soft lockdown, I put myself into the situation of it getting worse and things going downhill from there and it becoming more real. And I put myself in like parents' perspectives of something happening to their kid, and now the kid and the parents don't like get to say bye to each other, and just it's an awful situation.
It would be considered, but we have had to go into lockdown before. It was really scary for me because I think that it was the first time that I had ever gone into a lockdown where I had actually understood what was happening, and well, it just kind of freaked me out because I didn't really know if I was going to be safe or not, and yeah.
Yes, I had to go in a hard lockdown in elementary school, and it was not fun because we had to sit under our desks for like 2 hours, and it was not fun at all.
When you hear about another school shooting occurring, how does that make you feel?
Well, when I was younger, it made me feel like, dang, that really could happen. Like, what if we're next? Like, what if our school's next? But now that it's 2025 almost, and like things like it's happening a lot more often, it just I've kind of gotten used to it. And so I mean, I still like have grief in my heart and mind and everything, but yeah, I just got used to it.
I would say it's not necessarily that I'm like very shocked, because like when I first heard, I think back in like 2023 in like the spring, there was a school shooting, and I was like, wait, really? And then now that more have happened, I'm just like, I'm not shocked, but I'm still like disappointed and scared, because I can still hope for change, but I can't really expect it to happen
anymore. It kind of makes me astonished that this is what our society has come to, and that this is now a normal in teenagers' lives, is hearing about schools in the same state or in just all across the country getting threats and shootings and all that sort of stuff. And it's not even a surprise anymore. It's just there. It's something we're used to. It's horrifying to think about, but it's something not in disbelief anymore like it used to be.
We asked the youth to summarize what's it like living in this sort of environment. We asked them just give us one word. This is what they said.
Disturbing. Heartbroken.
Astonished.
Unsettling.
To be honest, dumb.
Helpless.
Normal.
Numb. Sadness.
Desensitizing.
Thank you, Dustin, for filming that. It's in the editing part that you see the heads being sort of shrunken. It's not his fault, it's the editor's fault. Thank you, high school students, for being so vulnerable and sharing. And thank you, Paul, for helping. And thank you, all who support students today, because I'm 50, and they're dealing with stuff I never could have imagined possible. So thank you for pouring into them. And thank you, Eric Garing, for making sure that the editing I did wasn't so bad that it could work for today. Thank you. I got to tell you that as I was listening to the students share this past Wednesday, I was shocked. My biggest fear when I went to high school, and if you went to McPherson High School, perhaps this was also your fear, was in getting lost in the insane way that building is created. I mean, come on. As a ninth grader, it's not hard enough. Now I have to figure out the maze that is Mac High. Or that I might forget my locker combination, which I did on a regular basis. But today, friends, in the words of Bob Dylan, times they are a-changing, and not for the better. This isn't a fun topic. This isn't a feel-good story. Today's message, its theme, is centered around gun violence. And this isn't what most pastors would turn to during Advent, but I think it is needed. Today's worship comes from Honor the Peace's invitation to join a larger movement to honor victims of gun violence. This coming Wednesday, the 11th, will serve as the 12th annual National Vigil for all victims of gun violence. The 12th time. A group of us wanted to create a worship with the worship team that would bring everybody together so that we can honor victims of gun violence. But we also wanted to create a worship that would inspire us to make a difference, to change the world. You see, friends, this is not just about remembering those who have been injured or harmed or scarred or been lost to gun violence. It is also about remembering that we have an opportunity and, yes, a responsibility to change this story. We do not have to live this way. Students do not need to, or should, nor should they have to live in fear or pray that their desk, which is now morphed into a shelter, can protect them. On the screens and in the bulletin, we've already shared ways that we can help address the leading cause of death for American children and teens, those under the age of 19. Bev has shared those statistics as well. It's important to know that truth. But it's even more important to work to create a new truth, one where gun violence no longer robs us of another brilliant person within our community, one where gun violence doesn't lead the way in stealing the lives of folks under the age of 19, one where gun violence no longer harms the most vulnerable in our society, LGBTQIA students, students of color, students who live in poverty or impoverished neighborhoods. They remain the highest risk to be victims of gun violence. This does not have to be our nation's story. We can rewrite this, and it begins with us. But before I go deeper into how and what and why we can do this, before we go deeper into the message, I want to share two stories of why I feel it is important to be honest and transparent and real about violence. And parents, there should have been a disclaimer for some of you. I tried to reach out to as many as I could. I apologize if not the intent of this. I don't want to traumatize kids or make this a fearful place for them. The first story happened when I was in Ohio. I was at a pastoral gathering at Mac Memorial Church of the Brethren on Salem Avenue. Anybody been to Mac Memorial? We were there with Brian Messler, and we were talking about what young pastors could do in the district. And as I was heading back to the West Mountain Church, rocking out to U2, it was April, the windows were down, it was a beautiful day. This is back when the disc jockeys that actually worked in local radio stations. All of a sudden, as soon as the song was over, the disc jockey changed the narrative. Another school shooting on a major college campus had happened. Nothing was known at this point, except the shooting occurred primarily in the School of Architecture. This was the shooting at Virginia Tech. Now, to someone from Kansas who's serving a rural church in Ohio, Virginia is a long way away. But this one was personal. Friends, this was the spring after National Youth Conference in 2006, and on that trip to NYC, I met a group from Virginia, and specifically Morgan. Morgan is a brilliant mind. She is phenomenal. She's energetic. She's faithful. She's one of the most graceful people I've ever met. And during our service project, I had the chance to work with her and get to know her. And she and I remained in touch from July up until April. She was a first-year student at Virginia Tech when the shooting happened. So I pulled over to the side of the road and I called her immediately. She answered, "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. But my fiance is in that building." He was locked in one of the classrooms. And the last message she got was that he was safe, but he could hear the gunshots. He can smell the things that are happening. He could hear the cries. That was the last conversation I had with Morgan. She and I lost touch and lost contact. It is prone to happen after 17 years. But that was the day that I realized none of us are immune from this, that in some way, Kevin Bacon's 6 degrees of separation will impact us. This was a direct link. It doesn't have to be this way. The second story involves my trip to Palestine, and this was a little more visceral, I'll say. This was during one of Israel's bombings of Gaza, not the most recent, but the one in 2009. Daniel was 6 months old and just beginning to crawl. I missed that while I was in Jerusalem. But Israel was bombing Gaza because they thought that would be the best way to handle violence, was to bomb schools and hospitals. Sitting there watching Al Jazeera Network, my heart stopped. Again, I was the father of a 6-month-old. The image on the screen was not one that typically we would see in the United States. It was a child, bloodied, clearly dead, buried under rubbish, a victim of the most recent bombing. It was gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, and even now the image is seared in my mind. Many of us feel these images are too painful, and we shouldn't be experiencing them. We shouldn't be exposed to them. And so I looked at Rick Polhamus, who was with me that day. I said, Rick, what is going on? Why are they showing this? How dare Al Jazeera show such a thing? The United States would never expose us to these images. Rick simply responded with the wisdom he has. Yeah, I know, he said, because we don't want to see such things in the United States. And then he added, but maybe if we did, we would do something about it. Nothing breaks our heart more than actually seeing a child murdered. And he let that sit with me. He was right then, he is right now. A child of God, whether they be 6 months old or 96, deserves to live a life free of violence. And though accidents will always be a part of our journey as human beings as we trek through life, we can do our best to curb this epidemic of gun violence. We can wear orange, which we are doing today, and it will tell the world, please don't harm us. We come in safety. And it also honors Hadiya Pendleton, who at 15 was shot and murdered. This is a student who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade. She had a bright future. She was brilliant. Her family and friends encouraged people to wear orange to remember her and to work for change. We can write letters to our elected officials and demand, yes, demand common sense gun reform. I'm not on the soapbox banning guns, but I will demand reform. I will demand our elected officials listen to us and do something. And we can educate our communities about the impact that gun violence has on the United States. An impact so significant that since Columbine, 1999, which became the gruesome go-to story for school shootings, listen to this. Over 300,000 students have experienced gun violence in schools. These come from the Sandy Hook Promise website. Over 300,000 in some form have experienced gun violence since 1999. They don't all include injury or death, but they're experiencing gun violence at a place that should be a haven, a refuge. Since 2000, over 1,600 students have been injured in a school shooting. Over 500 students have lost their lives. That's over 500 dreamers. These are just grades 12 on down, by the way, that no longer offer us opportunities to find cures to cancers, possibly, to end poverty, world hunger. 500 dreamers have lost their lives, and communities have been robbed of what could be. These numbers, again, do not include universities or colleges. These are just grades 12 through K. I share this to shock you, friends, to anger you. But more than that, like that day in Palestine did for me, to move us into action. In a moment, we're going to honor 20 schools that have been impacted by school shootings, and I want to share one more way before I do that, that we can make a difference. According to the Sandy Hook Promise website, an estimated 4.6 million American children live in a home where guns are loaded and unlocked. Simple measures to ensure children can't have access to these loaded weapons can make a huge difference. But let's go further. 68% of school shootings occurred with a weapon that a student took from home. 68%. A locked firearm may not give that student access and could have prevented possibly so much. 4 out of 5 shootings, 80%, happened when someone in some way had knowledge of the attacker's plan, but failed to report because they didn't think it was serious enough. And according to a study done by the Secret Service, 93% of attackers plan their attacks. and have shown signs that they are continuing to plan their attacks. One way we can make a difference is learn to see the signs, and we report. Nothing is insignificant. This may make me unpopular with some of you, and we can have conversations later about what I'm about to say. I am a strong proponent of removing students who have these flags in their behavior. Yes, you heard me. I am a strong proponent of removing students who show these signs. But here is why. They need help. They need to be put in an environment, in a culture where they are not necessarily bullied every day, where the anger doesn't continue to boil within them. They need to be given safe spaces to work through their anger and their pain in an environment that gets them counseling and therapy so they can feel better. That I'm not about putting them into jail or to prison. I'm about helping them, teaching them, equipping them with the feelings they're feeling deep within. Locking them up does nothing to help that. It just pushes the feelings deeper. Getting the real help they need gives them a chance at a brighter future. We can and must do something, and we will do something. For now, we're going to do a moment that is emotional for some, I hope, but inspiring to change for others. We're going to return and remember the victims of gun violence, especially and specifically the ones involved in mass shootings at schools. The sad reality, there were too many. I could not name them all, so I had to filter, and this was my process of filtering. I didn't have the emotional or the time space for that. So I only included the schools where there were 4 or more victims. Then I have to say this, even that list is too long. So we're only going to remember 20 schools as we do this process. I will read the school. Their picture will appear on the screen with the date and the place. Hannah or Raina will light a candle, and then Caden or Nathan will ring a bell. Columbine High School. Santana High School. Red Lake Senior High School. Essex Elementary School. Nickel Mines Amish School. Henry Ford High School. Millard South High School. Chardon High School. Sandy Hook Elementary. Sparks Middle School. Marysville Pilchuck High School. Townville Elementary. Rancho Tehama Elementary. Marshall County High School. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Santa Fe High School. Oxford High School. Robb Elementary School. Covenant School in Green Hills. Perry High School.
Please remain seated for the rest of the service and join in singing Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Peace on earth, for we set our stand to
join me in speaking our unison sending words. We leave this place aware that faith without works is dead. We name that words without action are empty. We confess even prayers can be shallow. But we leave changed and inspired to do more, and we will. We will work for peace and justice. We will offer prayers and presence. We will work for change without ceasing until change comes. Amen. Go in peace.